On January 20, 2012, Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens Public Docket Database, verified 2,000 and growing federal crime victims created by official corruption, fraud, civil rights crimes, professional malpractice, employee misconduct, deliberate or uncorrected falsification of case reports, and public records. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, and verified evidence held in U.S. Citizens Public Docket Database respectfully suggests 11 new federal laws to enrich innovation of U.S. economy, education, court, government, and public safety reform, improving quality of life for working-class student, impoverished patriotic American families, entrepreneurs who are also federal crime victim voters having similarly situated class action claims, and substantial voter constituency clout in these U.S. states: Alaska, Arkansas, Arizona, California, Delaware, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Montana, New Mexico, New York, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington, West Virginia, and Wisconsin. On January 25, 2012, America's President Obama stated during his State of the Union speech, quote, "We know what it takes to compete for the jobs and industries of our time. We need to out-innovate, out-educate, and out-build the rest of the world. We have to make America the best place on earth to do business. We need to take responsibility for our deficit and reform our government. That's how our people will prosper. That's how we'll win the future." End quote. On August 2, 2011, Roxanne Grinage, the legal administrative assistant owner of HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens Public Docket Database, faxed a 39-page due diligence report letter to President Barack Obama, U.S. Attorney Eric Holder, 5 Office of Civil Rights Regions with courtesy copy to Pennsylvania Governor Tom Corbett, enclosing verified evidence, claims intake assessments, docket analysis, and proprietary research case studies of 1,000 federal crime victim voters created by official corruption, fraud, civil rights crimes. Roxanne Grinage reported her legal administrative assistant verification of case merits within the spirit of excerpt quotes from Barack Obama's Nobel Prize acceptance speech. Quote, "I face the world as it is and cannot stand idle in the face of threats to the American people. For make no mistake, evil does exist in the world." An excerpt quote from President Obama. And within the spirit of U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder's vision statement for U.S. Department of Justice Defending Childhood Initiative, which recognizes America's children exposed to violence are victims and witnesses. Quote, "We've got to break this cycle of violence. Through enhanced prevention, intervention, and accountability efforts, I believe we can. And I know that this work begins by coming together and reinvigorating our commitment to collaboration." An excerpt quote, Eric Holder. Innovation scholars, community development leaders, reform visionaries, and victims of corruption in government began referring to Roxanne Grinage's August 2, 2011 letter to President Obama, Eric Holder, and 5 offices of civil rights regions as champions of patriotism quotes. Along with well-known famous patriots like President Barack Obama and U.S. Attorney Eric Holder, Roxanne Grinage includes quotes from not-so-famous, new civil rights heroes emerging from ranks of everyday working-class student and impoverished Americans whose federal crime victim claims are verified and for whom U.S. Citizens Public Docket Database reveals exactly which individuals abused immunity language in 1983 Civil Rights Act. Quote, "The answer to missed education opportunities, unaccountability horror stories, oppressive contracts, racism, poverty, and hate-based ideas festering into terrorism is the responsible development of entities that standardize access and standardize services. A new civil rights movement is underway in these United States. Families fight back. Say no more DHS demonic horror stories. A new civil rights movement sees new civil rights heroes emerging from the ranks of working-class students and impoverished American families. HireLyrics Jobs Creation 2012 Federal Crime Victims Recognize Law Enforcement Are Working-Class People Too. Federal Crime Victim Voter Statement. If one of us should fall, or 10 of us should fall, or 100 of us should fall, we will have a community needs-powered, personality-independent mechanism in place which will automatically trigger the rescue of children of all ages kidnapped for profit, injured by official corruption, fraud, civil rights crimes. Roxanne Grinage always follows up claims verification with certified service referral of Roxanne Grinage Legal Administrative Assistant Verification, Pro Se Document Production, Marked Itemized Exhibits Index relative to U.S. District Court Pro Se Federal Civil Rights Complaint, State Court Family Division Pro Se Notices, Motions, Answers, and Notice of Appeal. Known as HireLyrics Evidence Modules, Roxanne Grinage transmits fraud reports, whistleblower transmittals, investigation, and audit requests to authorized incumbent presidential executive officers, U.S. Department of Justice law enforcement, states' lawmakers, funding decision-makers, and special prosecutors. HireLyrics is found to be the most effective sounding board for government reform, grassroots galvanized federal crime victim voter clout, education by conversation, fair voting, and petition signature gathering campaigns. Vote for candidates who recognize official corruption, fraud, civil rights crimes are killing our children and killing our U.S. economy. Exercise your right to vote. Do not withhold your vote. Too many people fought and died so you could exercise your right to vote. Vote, vote, vote. Cross party lines. Send a clear message. DHS slaughtered families do vote. Non-responsive, unethical elected officials are removed. Vote, vote, vote. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Provide a venue for pro-litigations to petition a federal judge to authorize U.S. Marshals Federal Fugitive Task Force to assist in the retrieval, rescue, and expeditious return of children abducted in a family division custody dispute where there is indisputable document and witness evidence that malpractice occurred to cause children to be abducted, missing, exploited, trafficked, abused, health, and whereabouts unaccounted for. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Raise the salaries of federal judges, the budgets and salaries U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force, and the salaries and budgets to hire additional staff. Raise the salaries of federal magistrates who pro se litigants can opt to bypass costly and time-consuming jury trials to gain qualified fair adjudication based in the federal rules and equal discernment of family division state court malpractice victim. This new federal law would remedy the trafficked children having fallen through the cracks of state court family division malpractice and increase the resources of ethical, qualified federal law enforcement to rescue children without being overwhelmed with funding limitations which cause local police, sheriff's deputies, and federal courts to shy away from enforcing laws due to financial challenges. Hopefully, Americans can do away with seeing a federal judge shirk solemn oath of justices to treat the rich and poor fairly, as we saw in order issued by federal judge Mitchell S. Goldberg in Roxanne Grinage v. Fern Brown Kaplan et al. Informa pauperis non-attorney represented litigants receive less weight than lawyer-represented litigants. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Forbid domestic relations judges from ordering the arrest, imprisonment, or otherwise criminalizing any party who is responsibly participating in state court family divisions, domestic relations, litigation, as either an attorney represented or pro se litigant. Require family division judges to issue written findings of fact and published opinions as to whether the domestic relations judge guarded the integrity of due process, reviewed whether state court rules of civil procedure were observed for the family target of DHS contractors kidnapped for profit schemes. For example, family division judges are flagrantly failing to compel discovery that would force dishonest CPS caseworkers to provide evidence depositions and expert witness testimony supporting their template petitions to terminate parental rights, and this new federal law would also embed judicial accountability as to whether the sitting family division judge fairly weighed evidence in the best interest of all evidence, asking first, where is the evidence? Why has there been no discovery? Why are expert forensics reports and other evidence in the best interest of CPS kidnap-for-profit victim families censored and never presented by conflict of interest behaving court and DHS practitioners? Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Ensure public safety by making it a new federal law which forbids arrest, imprisonment, terror, tyranny, intimidation, or retaliation against a parent, grandparent, other relative, or family friend who declares they are protecting their child, children, from increased risk of abuse and injury by unaccountable CPS DHS agency foster placement in shelters and whereabouts unknown to vested interest family litigants, while family division matters are adjudicated by the state judge, and as long as the vested family member appear at scheduled hearings with a lawyer or self presenting in our own right pro se, having entered evidence of CPS DHS employees' misconduct, fraud, or malpractice in accordance with local rules and notices of scheduling orders. This new federal law should apply to foster and adoptive parents who are required to prove authentic vested interest in the heritage, health, education, careers, freedom, and future of subject children above and beyond a challenging family member. The claims of foster and adoptive parents are greatly diminished when challenging family members have irrefutable evidence of state court family division and DHS employee malpractice. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services, U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Make it a new federal law that no person living in America can be forced to incur payment liability or accrue any debt for service contracts mandated by the recommendations of any state, county, or agency employee who is an adverse suing party attempting to intervene in the parental civil state or U.S. constitutional rights of any American working student or impoverished litigant in any family division litigation matter. Forbid federal and taxpayer-funded CPS state functioning agencies, Department of Human Services, to attach the personal assets, earnings, or property of any American pro se or lawyer-represented litigant or responsibly participates by appearing at state court family division timely noticed in writing court appearances. If the American pro se or lawyer-represented litigant demonstrates by submitting document, affidavit, deposition, expert witness reports, community witness testimony, invoices, receipts, and proof of prior contractual investments made in demonstration of the American citizen's vested interest in preservation of family persons, heritage, health, education, or employ self-employed small business or community development mentoring U.S. economy careers contributions, stay all financial billing of forced commerce while the matter is in family division. Stop, deny any wage garnishments, attachments of IRS federal or state tax refunds, forbid lien on real estate or foreclosure caused by prior erroneous billing. Require credit reporting giants to record debit relief statements, Federal Trade Commission affidavits, or identity theft. U.S. Courts Administration enable federal U.S. District Courts recognize nature of suit cause of action, forced commerce fraud billing in all lawyer-representative U.S. District Court compliant pro se lawsuit forms packages. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Enforce current federal laws and enhance with language which provides protection for the federal crime victim who has entered U.S. District Court and Department of Justice complaint and claims forms compliant exhibits of official corruption, fraud, civil rights. Increase the salaries of federal magistrates who can expedite discernment of federal civil rights complaints, affidavits, testimony, and exhibits to order malicious, malpractice, official corruption, fraud, civil rights defendants functioning in state court conflict of interest with DHS billing contractors providers are restrained, ordered, stay away from plaintiff, federal claimant pro se, or attorney represented. Expand federal rules to include language which gives prosecutorial exemption to law-abiding community development workers who always promote peaceful civil rights activism and permit compliant peaceful protests, advocates, court reform spokespersons, and responsible registrants of judicial accountability. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Fine domestic relations judges $5,000 for each order they fail to document in writing. When a family division judge issues 3 orders in writing that commit fraud upon that court, causes the court to no longer be a court of record, excludes interested family neighbors and community, the written order is in conflict with state's rules of civil procedure, or otherwise violates the state and U.S. constitutional and civil rights of the pro se litigant, including the right of free speech, the offending family division judge forfeits any investigation and immediately is disbarred, impeached, and restrained from entering any public buildings conducting the business of public trust. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Fine domestic relations judges $5,000 who allow family division proceedings to proceed without duly service of written notice of scheduling or most recent order, and who do not provide easily attainable printout of docket events by pro se litigants. Impose the fine if offending family division judge does not enforce state court rules of service within 7 days of pro litigant's notarized affidavit of facts, objections, and concise errors lawfully filed with the clerk of court. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Fine domestic relations judges $5,000, a maximum of 3 offenses before immediate impeachment, who tolerate clerk of court routine failures to notice scheduling and most recent orders by electronic certified service when requested by pro se litigants. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. Fine clerk of courts, guardian ad litems, DHS commissioners, and offender CPS caseworker supervisor, court or agency-appointed lawyers, and Department of Human Services legal departments $5,000 each and every time evidence shows certified service notice and most recent written judicial orders were delayed due to deliberate or incompetent records mismanagement of parties' addresses. Roxanne Grinage, HireLyrics Administrative Services U.S. Citizens-Controlled Public Docket Database, respectfully suggested new federal law to enrich U.S. economy, education, careers, and public safety. When a family division judge is shown to be abusing police and sheriff employees by ordering the arrest of a family division litigant or by issuing subpoenas for jury duty or some other purpose, the federal crime victim claimant has documented the judge's prior felony conducts, as Roxanne Grinage has shown evidence to U.S. Attorney for the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, Zane David Memiger, and had December 22, 2011 conversation with Philadelphia Sheriff Warrant Unit Sergeant Muse. It's not that kind of warrant like if you were stopped by the police in the street. The police could see the warrant in their system. It's the kind of warrant issued by Judge Robert J. Matthews to arrest you and your daughter only if come into the court. Order the immediate suspension without pay or pension pending federal lawsuit decision. Criminally charge Family Division Municipal Court or other state malpractice offending judge RICO indictments, which include charging offending judge with abuse of public resources, abuse of police sheriff employees and county law enforcement, and conspiracy to lure the federal crime victim claimant into false arrest and unlawful imprisonment, abuse of public buildings by issuing bogus arrest warrants that do not show up in city police and sheriff arrest warrant databases, but rather are bogus and enacted unlawfully to unlawfully detain the Family Division litigant who has lawfully challenged the Family Division judge to honor state court rules of civil procedure, maintain the court as a court of record, compel discovery, demand to see and hear and weigh all the evidence on both sides, and to restrain one malicious suing party, CPS DHS, from forcing contracts commerce and criminalizing the American working class student or impoverished American who seeks application of local rules, state's constitution, and U.S. constitutional civil rights and rights to freedom of speech. Fine any state court